Fox Nation. What are they? Give us a preview and the title, I Am Blank.
Let me tell you, we went round and round about the title, and I kept saying, why are we calling it I Am Blank? What does that mean? And that is the whole point. Who is Bryan Kohberger? We really don't know. Listen, we go back all the way to middle school to find middle school classmates, to find people that knew him all the way through his life, leading up to the murders of 4 innocent and beautiful young Idaho University students. Who is this guy? And those are questions you may never hear the answers to at trial. That's what we're trying to find out.
And Nancy, we actually have a clip from that. Let's listen.
One of the main topics of discussion, women.
So the thing we talk about a lot, the dating scene, it just got kind of just really hard. But he was just having a time, getting ghosted a lot, talking to a girl and then wondering, oh, why didn't she text back ever? I think he just felt frustrated is just the biggest word.
Frustrated, a feeling Dr. Chris Mahandi believes is common for incels.
Fascinating, a psychological look at what made this killer. Nancy, we're looking forward to this. You can watch, by the way, the full exclusive special, Bryan Kohberger, I Am Blank, available now on Fox Nation.
As far as being frustrated, that's boys. I have 2 boys, right? And my oldest has told me many times, it's so hard to be a boy because you're the one who has to ask the girl out and you have to do this. They get rejected all the time. It doesn't mean, that you're going to turn into anything crazy or snuff out lives or what have you. So, I just think what he said regarding that is true of all boys at that age. And middle school was a long time ago. Middle school is like 14 years old. So I don't know how significant one of his friends who may or may not have been a good friend in middle school, we don't really know how his statements relate to any of this.
It didn't seem like anything significant to me what they said about the dating app, and it seems almost even cruel that they're bringing it up as a motive for.
Yeah, because let's face it, like everyone says, and it's the truth. He's innocent until proven guilty, and we've seen many times where it looks exactly like someone, like there's no doubt, it's so obvious, and it isn't. So there's still room there that Bryan Kohberger's an innocent guy, and we can't let go of that when we're looking through things. So that's why I say I don't think it's so significant that he felt frustrated with girls when he was 14.
Agreed.
And you know what I'm saying? Because it's like, if he didn't, that would be odd to me. All 14-year-old boys feel awkward when it comes to trying to talk to girls and this, that, and the other thing.
It seems shocking that this person would even report it to Nancy Grace. I just thought maybe.
I think Nancy Grace, her staff went out and found people who knew Bryan when he was a young kid, and that's all the guy had to say. And it wasn't very compelling, it was it's just my opinion.
I mean, also, I don't know all the, you have some background in education with the, paralegal and stuff like that.
There were a few things that were significant that stuck out to me.
Hold on.
Okay. Because, one of the things that really stuck out to me, because I love Nancy Grace. I think she's excellent at what she does. She's a top-notch reporter, and I like her style personally. But one of the things, she had on a guy by the name of Chris McDonough, he's actually the director of law enforcement relations for the FBI, and he's a retired homicide detective. Kind of knows what he's talking about when it comes to cases like this. And he said something that made a lot of sense to me, and that was when whoever the alleged killer was in the room with the girls, that his take was he had to have gotten in bed with the girls. It would have been the only way that he could have ended up ending both lives without without too much trouble, right? So if he got into bed with the girls and he was holding them both down, kills one, kills the other, that makes more sense than if he tried to end the life of the girl on the outside. The inside girl would have woken up, would have jumped. I mean, it would have been a different scene. But because they were both found the way they were found in the bed, it looks, to this guy at least, and I agree with him, that he probably went in, whoever it was, got in the bed and kind of subdued them both before, ending their lives. And so I think that's how it happened, and that's how it that's only the way it could have happened so quickly. And with the bodies and the positioning where, the affidavit from Brett Payne said that they were found upon, law enforcement arriving.
And it's nice to have someone,
Yeah.
a person who has done this and has the background, who can explain it
Right.
to us how that
It just made sense when he said it. It was like, yeah, that is a very plausible theory.
exactly.
Yeah.
So.
I was going to say one more thing before you move on to that. Just this was another thing that came out of that documentary, is that the other thing they strongly suspect and that they're looking into more, as they said, based on kind of a profile of who this alleged person is that this same guy, Chris McDonough, said he wants to really look into the closets, right? Because he feels that probably he could have been in there previously and hidden in closets, almost in a peeping Tom sort of way, which oftentimes escalates into, right? Like they may go in and they're stalking their victims. They get real close. They hide in the closet. And what he's looking for is sweat DNA. Because he's saying, like, if someone was in there in the closet and they're nervous, they're going to be sweating and they're going to leave these traces. So they want to go in and try to pick up sweat DNA in the closets to see if they can identify any other males that they may not have identified previously. Or maybe they're looking to find more DNA of BK and they're looking to strengthen their case with that. I just thought that was interesting.
We're going to listen to Harsh Reality. He has a passion that if you're ignoring these angles, you're not doing a justice as a, I guess, an online sleuth.
There he is.
Picture on the screen.
Yeah.
But yeah, so basically they're talking, she goes back and she talks to a few people, but this Jack Bayless, who's an ex-friend. Now he says ex-friend. Now I don't know whether he's ex-friend because he was a friend and he fell out with him, or he's thinking to himself, now I've said this, I definitely don't think that Brian's going to have me as a friend around, because he basically goes on to basically say that Bryan Kohberger is some sort of incel. We're back on that, the incel train. Least he's not being pushed as a cannibal this time. No, we're just going back to that. So he says, ex-friend Jack Bayless told the news correspondent that Kohberger's behavior prior to the gruesome University of Idaho murders was suspicious, and hinted at his ability and motive to commit such a heinous crime. Now wait for it, because I know what you're thinking. The prior to the gruesome crime was suspicious. So he's going to go into great detail why he thinks it's suspicious, isn't he? No, he doesn't. He just says it's suspicious. And his motive to commit, what do you think his motive's going to be, guys? What do you think his motive's going to be? I want to tell you. Right, so the special focus on the psychology of the serial killer. Speaking on Kohberger's mental state, Baylor said Kohberger and he, brilliant English, commonly talked about women on dating apps that would ghost them and essentially engaging with them for a moment before ignoring any attempt of additional contact. Bayless claims that this frustrated them, but that Kohberger's feelings did not end with frustration. I hear you now. What happened? What happened, Harsh? What happened after that? Allegedly, Kohberger would then message his then friend saying that he was depressed and had developed a weird sense of meaning.
Okay, we're going to stop there. But it's almost like he has the same visceral reaction that you do. Like, what a non-story.
Such
You
an
know,
odd story. I don't even believe the kid. That's my opinion. I don't believe that friend. Oh, we both didn't like it, but then he would call me and say, "Bro, I'm depressed." Give me a break.
yeah,
I don't buy it.
yeah. I just hope. I trust that Nancy Gray. Well, she's got a report on it. It's part of the story.
It
And
was the interview, and he said what he said. So I believe he said all of those things. But I think if we really looked into it, you would see he probably wasn't friends with him for very long. I doubt they were real close. I mean, they probably had one interaction with a dating app when they were 15. Who knows? I just think like the last person I'm going to find out if Bryan Kohberger had a motive is someone he was a friend with at 15 years old.
I think I would hope none of us
Yeah. So
in
I'm
this
like,
situation have.
is it interesting? Yes. But is it significant? I would say no.
I would say I think there's a lot of armchair psychology going on, and I think that's where it fascinates people is they hear
Yeah.
about the accurate FBI profiles, and they think, okay, well, it's not actually proof. The profile isn't proof. It's just a tool for investigating, and I think that people take it as almost like something that could be used as evidence, and it's not.
Right. And I'm just saying that what's the evidence of someone got rejected when they were 14 by a girl? Isn't that every guy's life story? We don't have a country filled with serial killers. Right? I don't see how that's a motive, but
Yeah.
okay.
Okay, there we go.
Other sketchy drugs. So he's been into other sketchy drugs now. What sketchy drugs? Why wouldn't you just spit it out? Why is everything so vague? So what did he do? Did he do mushrooms? Was he on marijuana? Sketchy. What's sketchy? So what are they trying to insinuate now through that lack of information that he was perhaps on some harder stuff that we know is flowing through? But things like this also don't help the Idaho 4 situation when there's a lot of people who are pushing that this could have potentially been a narcotics related event. Because what we're now back to saying is that Bryan Kohberger could have potentially been up to his nuts in drugs again. Now, if he was up to his nuts in drugs and we've got this house that seemingly got all this stuff on the peripheral, is that the tie? Is that the tie to this house? Is Bryan Kohberger someone who got stuff through them or was tied up with this bunch of people due to that situation? I don't know. But this kind of doesn't help you ignore that.
He started using sketchy medications. But what's odd about that is if you're willing to call out one of the highest, most awful substances in society, what is so sketchy you have to call it sketchy? It's weird that he would be so vague if he's coming out with such a strong allegation.
Well, I don't even know how we would know that information, right? Like it's a fact that he had an addiction problem in the past. We know that, right? We know that. But we don't know anything about sketchy drug medication in the future. We don't know about that. So I think that might be just a hypothesis on his end because look, he became clean. He's clean, right? He rehabilitated.
But it's the Jack Bias guy from the Nancy Grace interview that claims that he was doing these sketchy drugs with him after he got clean.
His friend. Okay. I thought you were talking about the homicide detective, and I was thinking, I don't understand why his friend said they were. Okay, were they really? Because then it goes to the credibility of this kid who's having his 5 minutes of fame or whatever you want to call it, And all right, did he even know him after he was 14? It sounds like he didn't really. So, I don't know. We'll watch the whole documentary and I would like to react again after I get to see him and
speak from a place of knowledge. The other thing I want to know is, did you know during this interview, did she ask or talk to any coworkers or people from his current life?
Well, I didn't see, like I said, I only saw a few clips. I didn't see the whole thing. I do want to, I just haven't had a chance to get to that yet. But so I didn't see that.
People really are concerned. And one thing I didn't say, I think fully when you were talking about Nancy Grace, is I find it I think everybody's kind of taken back that all the stories we hear about him are from his adolescence and his early 20s. And like whether he just wasn't active or what, we just don't seem to hear from his professional colleagues, from the people he worked with, from the people he went to school with about him. And it's just so odd that we just don't know much about him current day, but we keep hearing about these things from back in the day.
Yeah, because that's easier to dig up, right? Like I read a thing recently about what was the name of the place the girls worked? The Mad
Greek,
what?
yeah.
Greek, the Mad Greek, okay. And these people, you know, God bless them, and I feel sorry. The owner of the Mad Greek had to put out a statement saying, please leave us alone. Let us grieve for our friends, our colleagues. You know, the media is just, you're invading our privacy. You're creating chaos in the restaurant itself. You're finding our employees. You're tracking them down at home. This is getting a little out of hand. And so I think the people who know him now or knew him best are kind of like, please leave us alone right now. And so they're not as easy to come across as like, okay, let's go find someone who knew him when he was 14. Those people are like, yeah, hey, yeah, I'll be happy to talk about it. Don't know how much significance it is, right? Because however many years ago. But I think the people right now are just kind of, they don't know what to do, and they're trying to stay, you know, they don't want to interfere with the investigation, and they don't know who to talk to, right? Because there's so many people that are just not just the regular media, but all of the YouTubers and the people who are doing their own self-crime investigations. They're finding these people, they're knocking on their doors, and that's scary. You know, that's scary to an average person.
Oh gosh, can you
You know,
imagine? I can't.
no.
The other thing I wonder too, and I'm not sure if this is the case or not, but if some of them are like in a way, I don't know how character can become part of a trial, but if they are some sort of character witness, maybe because of the sealing of the court trial, they're not allowed to talk to media if they worked with him. I don't know what
They aren't. They're part of the gag order, right? So originally the gag order included just the attorneys for both sides, and the parties themselves and their family members. And it got extended to include any expert witnesses or anyone that was going to be called to testify. So they are also included. So that's a good point, Kiki, that you know, even if they wanted to, they can't really discuss it. So then what do? You go like, okay, what's my next level of, I'll dig into his past. People are going to find it interesting. Is it significant? Probably not. But is it interesting? Yeah. Curious. Did he have friends when he was younger? Did he, you know?
Yeah. What's going through my mind, which I don't, you know, I think it's pretty obvious. I don't have to say it out loud, but goodness gracious, if this man is innocent, then, oh gosh, you know, it's just completely, it's horrible to destroy a life like that, you know, digging up the past, thing, denigrating. But there's no other way, I guess, say, for the freedoms that we enjoy.
Right. Yeah. Look, like it or not, this is our justice system, and it's not perfect, but it's better than almost anyone out there in the world. So,
amen.
Yeah.
Amen.
We don't know what we don't know, and I'm sure there's a lot we don't know. That, like I said, as things are getting unsealed, when they're no longer significant to being sealed, then we find out and we go, aha. But you know, they can't tell us everything. I mean, there can't be a complete transparency because they're still building a case.